Hi there, and welcome to episode 255 of the Ski Podcast. Thanks for joining us today, listener. Today, we're going to have a focus on sustainability, looking at how different ski and outdoor businesses are working together to make progress, what the trail running company UTMB are doing to reduce their impact. Plus, we have an interview with Repair Claire from the clothing brand Montane. We're also going to find out what it's like walking from the UK to the Alps in ski boots. Plus, we have snow reports from Down Under and your feedback. Now, my name is Iain Martin. I'm joined by three guests in the studio today, all on the show for the first time. Firstly, I'm delighted to welcome Heather Davis from the Reaction Collective. Hi, Heather. How are you?
Hi, I'm really well. Thanks very much.
Whereabouts are you today?
I'm in the Three Valleys in a small village just below Maribel.
Okay, and how's the weather out there just now?
Very nice. Sunny. It's fresh in the mornings, but warming up in the daytime.
Okay, beautiful. I was out in the Alps last week. I'll come on to that a little bit later on. It wasn't quite as nice as that while I was there, but I think to me, any day in the mountains is a good day in the mountains. Now, my next two guests come as a package, so to speak. We're going to be finding out about their epic hike from the UK to Val Thorens in France in ski boots. I'm joined by Reuben and Matt Brinkley. I think it was around a month ago or so that you finished. So my first question, guys, how are your feet?
Oh no. Feet are
terrible, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, my toenails, a couple of them have fallen off since we stopped, but they're regrowing, so we're on the up.
I think anyone that lives near me or in the vicinity of my room, they still are complaining about the smell, to be absolutely honest.
Okay, well, we're going to discuss your adventure later on, but just for now, where are you guys today?
We're just along the bridge by Hammersmith Bridge.
Okay, well, I will be up there next week. I'm going to be at a ski launch, and then next month I'll be up there because that is also very near to Olympia, the London Ski Show, which we're going to be mentioning as well. But before we move on to those sort of things, a question I always like to ask my guests to start off with is, when did you ski or snowboard last? So I'm going to ask you that first, Heather. When were you last on snow?
Oh, good question. I think it was probably the beginning of May, and it would have been in Val Thorens, actually.
Right, because a long season there. So towards the end of the season, you got some skiing in. I can't remember. I think the end of the season was very good over there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good. We had some powder days. It doesn't last too long, but gets a bit heavy by lunchtime. But no, it's good.
Great. And Reuben and Matt, I know you were out in Val Thorens more recently. I doubt there was any snow there in August. When were you last skiing or snowboarding?
Yeah, I mean, everyone was laughing at us, weren't they, as we were walking through? They were going, the wrong time of the year, mate. Last time, we were actually in the same resort at the same time, doing a little bit of business research.
Yeah.
We were in Val d'Isère in March.
Fantastic. Well, what a wonderful resort that is. I was skied a little bit in Val d'Isère last winter, and I hope to get out there this winter as well. Right, for the moment, I found out recently Dave Riding is out training on the glacier in Saas Fay right now. But down under in Australia and New Zealand, the season is in full swing. So let's hear from Miss SnowItAll, Rachael Oakes-Ash from snowbest.com for the latest snow news.
Australian ski fields are definitely celebrating after an 80-centimetre snowstorm that fell from the sky last weekend. The storm comes off the back of a series of storm cycles across this winter that's delivered a stellar ski season after an absolute two shockers. Perisher are celebrating hitting the 2-metre plus snow base, and the Spencer's Creek snow depth, that's where they determine the New South Wales resort measurements, hasn't seen 2 metres since 2022, and it's currently sitting at 2.2 and will likely go higher. Now combine this with snowmaking across the resorts all winter, and spring, which we're currently now in, is looking exceptional, and it's likely that the full ski season will see itself out until the regular October long weekend, which hasn't happened for quite a while. Even New Zealand has finally got their much-needed late-season snowstorm, particularly for Queenstown, though for Temple Basin it came a little too late, as they never opened for the entire season and announced a couple of weeks ago that they won't actually open in 2025 for skiing and snowboarding at all. Well, ski touring, yes, but lift access, no. Queenstown resorts are happy with up to 30 centimetres from the storm just gone, which is awesome. And there's more snow forecast this weekend and next week, so they're sitting pretty for their spring as well.
If you're booking ski hire this winter, don't forget you can help the Ski Podcast and save yourself some money on ski hire by using the code SKIPODCAST when you book at insportrent.com. That applies to any ski hire booked in their massive network across France, Austria and Switzerland. You'll get a guaranteed additional discount, or you can simply take the link in the show notes for your discount to be automatically applied. Now, we have some news. I mentioned the London Snow Show earlier. I'm going to be covering this in more detail in next week's episode. But if you've been following Skipedia on Twitter, you'll know by now who and when the apres ski bands are playing, which is a big addition to the show for this year. I can also tell you that Dave Riding, who I mentioned earlier, and Laurie Taylor and Billy Major, our 3 alpine ski racers, will be at the show on Saturday doing a Q&A. And that the Carrick Smith brothers, who, as regular listeners will know, are sponsored by the Ski Podcast, will be appearing on the Sunday. I can also tell you that equipment expert Al Morgan and I will be talking about this year's new kit on Saturday morning. Later that day, I'll be offering advice on how to drive an EV to the Alps. And on Sunday, I'll be discussing what it's like to ski on a live volcano when I cover my trip to Mount Etna, which happened earlier this year. Listeners, you can get free tickets to that show. Just take the link in the show notes for the details for that. More news, quite exciting. Next week, I'm going to be announcing a new sponsor for the Ski Podcast. So we'll be revealing all this time next week. Now, I mentioned to Heather, I was out in the Alps last week. If you listen to episode 254, you'll know I was in Les Arcs in early August as part of my preparations for the OCC race in Chamonix. That is a 60-kilometre ultramarathon, had 3,500 metres of climbing. That might seem quite long to you, or quite short if you're someone who's recently walked all the way to the Alps. But it's one of the half a dozen races that happened during UTMB week. The longest one, the most famous one, UTMB, is 172 kilometres. Now, the company UTMB have had some criticism in recent years for their sustainability, but they've introduced some really impressive new policies. And they've committed to reducing their emissions by 20% by 2030. I was lucky enough to speak to Fabrice Perren, who is their head of sustainability. So let's find a little bit more about that.
Most of our impact is done with people coming to Chamonix. We have already done a lot to reduce it, and we can do it much better. But as a global footprint, it's like 2% of our activity. So 86% now of our carbon footprint is about people coming to Chamonix and getting out of Chamonix back to their home. That's where we have to reduce, and that's why we are planning to say that most of the runners from Europe will come by train or by bus, and most of the runners coming from overseas will take just one plane to come to Europe and then to use public transport.
There are a lot of new initiatives being introduced. I've written up something for the Green Runners, a UK lobbying group. But I also asked Fabrice about the new system of compulsory offsets that they're bringing in.
This year, in 2025, we proposed to the runners to offset their emission to come to the race. It was a volunteer choice. As of next year, it will not be an option anymore. You know this principle of polluter pays. And for us, what is important, and we worked on protect our meters and that, the non-profit, is to say that it's also a question that everybody is realizing what they are doing and the impact of their choices. Because it's easy when you travel and there is no cost. There is always a cost of the travel itself, but a cost on the nature. We say, okay, now when we travel, and we say that it's not bad to travel, we just say that we have to do it wisely and responsibly. If you decide to travel, then you have a cost to the nature, and you have to offset this cost.
So offsetting is a hot topic. Make it compulsory and applying the principle of the polluter pays. I think the UTMB are doing some good work. So, I just wanted to highlight it. It's not skiing, but it is about nature and the mountains. So I think it's relevant. Now, the weather in the Alps in summer can be amazing. It was gorgeous when I was in Les Arcs. Pretty mixed over UTMB week. It wasn't cold, but it did rain a lot. And in fact, my race, the course was changed to avoid the worst of the weather. It wasn't a particular problem for me. I was lucky enough to have a running jacket from Montane. In the lead up to the UTMB in 2021, I did a lot of research on the best jackets. I got that waterproof and windproof jacket from Montane. But after 4 years, pretty heavy use, it was falling apart. I contacted them to see if they could repair it. They couldn't actually do that because it was too warm. But while I was researching how it was going to be possible, I came across Repair Claire. And if you listen to episode 218, you'll know Arcteryx do a lot of repair work. And we're seeing this more and more with clothing brands. So I was intrigued and I managed to track her down and find out more about her role. It's called the Montane Repair Service, and you head that up, is that right?
Yeah, well, it had so many products that obviously people sending back mainly because they were worn out and didn't know what to do with them. So they had like a few boxes in the warehouse, and I took all the spare parts from them. So then when a customer was sending one in to be repaired, I kind of started this great big catalogue of old stuff, old materials, old zips, zip pulls, Velcro, anything that I can take off, something that was old and worn out. That's kind of, it's just worked so well. And now I've got so much stuff that somebody can have a jacket for 15 years and I've still got the materials. You know, it might be worn a little bit, but if we let the customer know that it is recycled, I'm sure they'll be thrilled.
What are the kind of most common or maybe even the trickiest repairs that you get coming in?
Hoods. I've had somebody burn the hood off with a light bulb. Yeah, it all depends where it's to get into the product and how to dissect it, take it apart to get it in. So the smallest parts are probably the hardest, around the cuff area. That's quite difficult because you're working in such a small space. So, but mainly it's kind of down products that I get through the winter throughout. So I usually get about 20, 25 a week in the winter time. Not so much in the summer, but it's surprising. Some repairs, I think, how on earth did you do that? And we'll get some stories like this pack's been all over the world. It's been the Himalayas. So yeah, we'll try and fix things that, you know, are treasured possession.
I also read you work quite closely actually with the design team, because you see, you know, what's going on with the product, and, you know, maybe there's some repairs or whatever that crop up. You can discuss with the design team elements and features that you think would be good. Because
of my background, I've done everything from wedding dresses to cushions, curtains. I hadn't done any products like this before I started Montane. I had been in tailoring. I can make you a cracking pair of pants in a dress jacket or a tuxedo. So I think when you've got knowledge of production and you get a lot of customer feedback, you've got to feedback to the design team what's right, what's wrong, or what can potentially not work. And I think working as a collective team, if I get time where I can look at the products before they go in, so I'm looking at 2026, and then we'll start going into 2027. We'll work so far ahead. Products have changed over the last few years. I think getting feedback is the best, and getting them tested, getting them out to athletes and people like yourself who can give feedback, true feedback on the wearability and how they fit, how they feel. Is the pockets big enough? You've got to get all this feedback. It should work.
So that segues really well into your work, Heather. You're a co-founder of the Reaction Collective. I think that started maybe 3 years ago. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So the Reaction Collective was actually born out of another organisation called One Tree at a Time. And that started here in the Three Valleys, so just below Courchevel. And that was really set up. It was set up by a friend of mine called Gavin, who was really frustrated with the amount of waste in the that he could see coming off the mountain in the ski resorts of the Three Valleys. And it was because waste from seasonaires, people who come to resort to work and then end up buying loads and loads of apparel while they're here and perhaps not taking it home with them, but also waste from companies that run operations here. So whether that's chalet companies, transfer companies, bars, restaurants, hotels, and so on. It was just around the time of Brexit, he decided to host a Fix-It, rude word, Brexit, event outside the ski shop that he used to run, in which he invited loads of friends to bring gear out of their wardrobes, and he sort of put the word around town, like, you know, bring your stuff, we'll resell it, we'll repair it, and we'll get it back out onto the mountain. That was so popular and so well supported that he ended up doing 3 events like that and raising something in the region of €8,000 or €9,000. And then One Tree at a Time was born. He originally used the money to plant trees, to support agriculture in Africa. The premise of it really is to keep outdoor gear in action and out of landfill. He was on a podcast similar to this, talking about this initiative, and the host gave him this challenge of like, well, how do you scale up your impact? And he was like, oh, I'm not sure about this. I don't know if I want to be going around kind of opening lots of One Tree at a Time, because it evolved into this community space that sells secondhand gear, repairs things, and so on. What would be really cool is if we could share the ideas and spread the ideas and support other organizations doing similar things. And that's when the Reaction Collective was born. And we started with 5 members, and they were organizations a bit like One Tree, that rescued and repaired and resold gear, but it's since grown into 60 plus organizations worldwide.
I mean, that's fantastic. I looked on your website. I mean, I've been following your work, and I've met Gavin before. Evidently very supportive of what you're talking about. I guess my background when I was a kid is that you don't waste anything. My mum came from a Scottish background where she lived on a sheep farm, back in the day, and we don't need to go into the origins of haggis now, but that's all about not wasting anything. But looking on the website, I see a lot of companies on there who have been guests, or I've spoken to on the podcast at different times before, such as Cirkel Supply, Montagne Verte, EcoSki, Whitestorm, Ski, and also Tees Not Trees. I was interested to see on there, who I've come across, from a running point of view. Brilliant organisation whereby when a race offers you a t-shirt, you can choose to have a tree planted instead. And it always makes me happy when I see events offering that. But how did that growth happen? Did you say you have more than 60 partners now?
Yeah, it's been really organic, to be honest. We talk about what we do on social media. So we're mainly on LinkedIn, Instagram. We're obviously quite well connected out here in the ski industry, and through our partners in different places, the word has just spread and people have come and found us, really.
And what kind of initiatives are you working together on then?
All sorts of different things. So it started, I suppose, with sharing knowledge and information about, what are you doing? How are you repairing things? And what are you doing? Like, one of the things that we're doing is debranding and rebranding gear. So, for example, there are lots of companies that will buy outdoor gear. It might be a really good brand, like North Face, Patagonia, these sorts of things. And then because they want it as their company uniform, they put their company logo on it. And quite often they end up using these for a season, or sometimes only just a few weeks, like the peak period of the season. And then colours will change, or branding will change next year, and they'll want to get rid of all this stuff. But they don't want it going back out into the world with their branding on it and people potentially misrepresenting them, especially if they're a ski school or something like that. So we came up with this idea of debranding, like taking the logo off or covering the logo with our logo. So now we've got a stamp. We use waste materials, so we don't make anything new, and we've sort of put out this idea of debranding and rebranding, and that's been really popular. So there's been initiatives like that.
Yeah, I think when Simon Hooper from Whitestorm was on, he explained to us how, they're one of the companies where maybe they've donated you their jackets to get rebranded. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, the way that we worked with Whitestorm was that we were given a load of jackets from various ski companies, and that were in really good nick, and they were ski jackets and pants. So what we did was we did this debranding, rebranding with the Reaction and One Tree logo, and then we asked Simon if he would want to have these jackets and pants in his shop, because it's a ski rental shop, to rent out to people who have either lost their luggage or who have forgotten their salopettes or whatever it might be. And so it's really cool because we actually see in the Three Valleys here loads of One Tree and Reaction kit out on the mountain every week.
That is brilliant. And so evidently that's one place where you can get hold of some of these, I guess they're upcycled garments. Is there a way, you talk about rebranding these things, how would people get their hands on them? Where would they get them from?
Yeah, well, either they could come to the community space and shop here in Bozell, where there's quite a lot of those kind of jackets available. Montagne Verte in Morzine, they do some similar things over there. So that's another place. Or you can just do it yourself. So if you have a jacket that's been kindly given to you by the company that you work for, but you don't work for them anymore, or you don't want to carry that logo around, then you can just get a patch and patch over it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea. And I think that sort of thing is becoming more common. I mentioned the Green Runners before. I'm a member of those on the running side of things. And one of the things that they encourage people to do, which I feel particularly strongly about, is repair running shoes. Brands tend to say, oh, your running shoes are going to last for 300 miles or 500 miles, whatever it is. And that's, put this politely, a load of rubbish. I have a spreadsheet, very much a spreadsheet person, where I measure how many kilometers I've run in all of my shoes. And I've got about 10 of them on the go at the moment. And at least 6 of them have done over 1,000 kilometers, and a couple of them are up to 1,500 kilometers. Because normally what happens is, don't want to spend too much time with this, but it's the mesh that goes, on the top. The actual sole is absolutely fine. You can buy these things called pair-ups and glue and repair them. And I think that extending the life, a really important part of what you're talking about, extending the life of these garments and stopping them going into landfill.
Yeah, definitely. There's a few different ways in which the reaction partners work. So one is extending the life through repair and good maintenance of your gear. Another element is the sharing economy. So that could be just borrowing something from a friend, or it could be embracing various sharing platforms. The one that I quite often use as an example is Tentshare. Quite a lot of us have a tent in our garage or in our loft, but we only use it maybe 1 week or 2 weeks a year. Why not share that tent, or you can make it available for rental on the Tentshare website, and then you can not only monetize what you have, but it makes it useful to somebody else as well. There's reuse as well, like repurposing things into other things. So we have some members who are really good at this kind of activity, whether that's repurposing garments, or it could be banners from festivals and things like that into useful items.
I think that's great. And you mentioned if you can genuinely take advantage of the sharing economy by doing things like that. Also, I mentioned them before, but I recommend EcoSki. Like, I hate throwing things away, and I've sold a bunch of old ski stuff through EcoSki, including ski boots. I mean, I probably wouldn't buy ski boots myself, without going somewhere and trying them on. But on the other hand, I just don't want to throw them away. I mean, Al has talked about how, design has changed, but there's so many different components on ski boots that the majority of it does end up in a landfill. And I'd really much rather see it used. Can I ask you something else? I wanted to specifically ask you about a new film, Actionism. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that and how it came about.
Yeah, definitely. It's a film that's really about the art of finding your people and taking collective action, which is exactly the journey that we've been on. And we told the story in the film through the eyes of an 18-year-old girl called Ellie Meredith, who had quite a hard time at school. She's neurodivergent. She made quite a tough decision not to go to university and follow, the path that all her friends were following, but to take a year out and kind of reassess and work out, what would be the right path for her. She was very climate anxious. She also really enjoyed being outdoors. And so sort of the marrying up of those things, she was like, well, what can I do? What's going to bring me joy? And where could this take me? And so she actually got in touch with us at the Reaction Collective, having found us on Instagram, and said, oh, I really like the sound of what you're doing. Can I get involved some way? And we were like, yeah, sure. Like, what do you want to do? And we ended up actually introducing her to lots of members of the Reaction Collective, quite a few of which live really close to where she lives in Shropshire. So it was really handy. And she went on this journey of discovering that, you don't have to follow the path that everybody else follows, and that by meeting like-minded people who share the same frustrations, the same concerns, and the same passions, you can actually find your way forward and find your agency.
Oh, and how can people watch that film?
We've got a link that I can share with you on the website. We haven't put it on a streaming platform. We were asked if we wanted to do that, and we just said no. So because what we wanted to do was open up conversation within communities. So it's available for community screenings, and it's free to apply for a community screening. If you can make a donation towards our work, then that's brilliant. And you just apply on our website, and then you are sent the link with a password and everything. It's very easy to set up.
Oh, so that's Actionism. What I will do is I'll put a link to that. I'll put a link to the Reaction Collective as well, so that listeners can find out about the various companies out there who are all working together. I just want to say thanks for that, Heather. I think you and Gavin there doing some fantastic work. Right, I'm going to move on to Reuben and Matt now. I mentioned I've done a few long races. I've done a few long hikes in preparation, but I've certainly never gone as far as the Alps. And I've definitely not done it in ski boots. And so just to clarify, you walked the entire distance in ski boots and you were carrying skis as well. Is that right?
It was a stupid idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're right, Ian. It was a bit of an ask, but yeah, we had boots on, we had backpacks with our skis strapped to them, and obviously carrying all our water and stuff. So
I think what's even more funny is we both were incredibly underprepared the entire time. I mean, you had a backpack that was meant to be worn in London traffic, and I had some sort of ABS backpack.
Yeah,
I still had a canister in it.
Yeah, I had my work backpack from when I had my last job. It barely survived, but Stubble and Co. Fair enough.
I already asked my first question earlier. Now, how are your feet and how are you feeling? But I think the next obvious question to ask is, why did you choose to take this challenge on?
It's a big question, I think. So probably two reasons mainly. Number one is, so we started this business called King of the Hill, which is all about doing crazy things and having fun with your friends. And it's a new platform for skiing and mountain biking designed for snow sports lovers, group adventures. And we were just thinking, we were in it, to be absolutely honest with you, Ian, we were actually in a pub. We were thinking about how can we get this out in front of as many people as possible and how can we do something good for the world. And after going through a lot of different ideas, some of which were very silly.
Some were worse, actually. Some were worse than the idea. Yeah, worse than the idea that we actually landed on. But yeah, and I guess the essence of it is lots of people have these ideas and they don't necessarily follow through on them. We kind of thought, we wanted to turn a few heads and, as Reuben said, do something good for the world. So we're raising money for two amazing charities. So Snowcamp charity, who do a lot of work in the snow sports industry, particularly taking sort of disadvantaged young people out to the Alps skiing and giving them qualifications in the UK at the local sort of snow domes near to where they live, giving them an outlet to maybe turn their lives around and go in a different direction. And then we were also doing it for McMillan Cancer Support. So that's a charity very close to our hearts. Obviously, it touches a lot of people. And obviously, Reuben has a particular interest in this charity as well. So I'll let you talk a bit about that.
Yeah, of course. So I was wearing the boots of a man called Jerry Childers, who bought me these ski boots when I was about 16 years old. And he was my godfather. He passed away, sadly, in 2018 from cancer. And he was the guy that introduced me to all sorts of things adventurous, so skiing, snowboarding, windsurfing, all of that. And I remember specifically, he put me on a chairlift when I was 13 years old. And he said, "Hey, Reuben, we're going to do a race." I said, "Oh, cool. What's the race called? What's this?" And he said, "It's called the King of the Hill race. And here are all the rules you've got to follow." And as we were going up the chairlift, he was telling me, goggles done up correctly, boots on, no starting early, all of these different rules. And just as he lifted up the bar, he said one thing that stuck with me the whole time from then onwards till my life today, which was, "Oh yeah, and there's one last rule, Reuben." I went, "Oh, cool. What is it? Because I wanted to win this race, right? There's one last rule. And that is, there are no bleep rules." And pushed me over and skied down as quickly as he could. So from then onwards, our application is called King of the Hill. It's all about having fun with your friends. There's no rules. Go race them, have custom leaderboards, do valley rallies, have a good time. But also live your life with no rules. And if you say you're going to do something that's absolutely mental and everyone will tell you not to do it, screw it. Go and do it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, I mean, that's a fantastic story, and I'll certainly put a link to King of the Hill in there. And that's really interesting that you did the walk, because one of the questions I was going to ask, I guess we'll come on to that. I just wanted to mention, hopefully listeners would know Snowcamp, because I did a little bit of fundraising for them earlier this year. And we've interviewed different people from Snowcamp, and also some of the people who've gone through their program as well. I guess I'll put some links to that. You mentioned those boots. So those boots were given to you by Jerry, because I'm going to ask about that, because you're spending a lot of time in ski boots. And ski boots are not designed, typically to be walked in. Yeah, these days they have grip walk or whatever. I don't know how old you are. Maybe those ones probably didn't have grip walk. I don't know. But what boots specifically did the two of you wear, or did you use multiple pairs during the course of the walk?
Good question. I mean, you're absolutely right. They're not designed for walking. They're pretty sturdy things. I had some old sort of Salomon, I think they were SX, 60s or something like that. Something pretty crusty from sort of the 80s, 90s, with like no flex whatsoever. So I was struggling a bit with that one, but at least my ankles were well supported. That was a positive.
Yeah, I had a pair of old full tilt boots from 2014, and I think in training we went through a pair of boots each, and then luckily Sidas, the footwear company, managed to provide us with these awesome little slidey things that go on the bottom of your boots. And we thought, hey man, there's no way these are going to last the whole way.
Yeah.
And just like mine broke just on mile 600, I think it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, very much certified for, if you need to walk from your accommodation in the UK to Val Thorens, it's certified. You can do it.
and it's interesting as well, Heather, that you mentioned that, the whole longevity of boots, because these things really did help, prolong the life of these boots, which otherwise would not survive.
So this is like a stretchy piece of rubber or something that goes under the sole and kind of clips around the toe and the heel of the boot. Is that what they are?
Yeah, they sort of clip on. You kind of adjust them according to the size of the boot, and they sort of clip on to the heel and the toe.
Just make sure you do the Allen key up correctly, because I lost the little bit halfway through. I had to duct tape it every day. Yeah. And once you do that 30 days in a row, and it keeps falling off.
Okay, and you've mentioned already, coming up to 600 miles, and you've mentioned 30 days. So let's be specific about that. I mean, how many miles is it, and how many days did it take you?
Overall, it was supposed to be 45 days. It ended up being 690 miles and 50 days, which equates to about half a marathon a day is what we were doing. And if you've ever watched Mike Humphries running the marathon in ski boots, or a couple of the other guys, they were running it, so we feel way worse for them. But it's definitely not one thing to do in the world.
Right. I mean, that is just such a spectacular achievement. I mean, I'm sure you attracted plenty of comments from people along the way saying, what the hell are you doing? You just must be insane.
Yeah, it was so interesting, because we traveled through quite a few different countries. Obviously, we started in London, and we made our way through to Belgium, so France, then to Belgium, along sort of the border into Luxembourg, down to Switzerland, and then sort of France again. It was so interesting to see how the different nationalities reacted to it. So it seemed like very much in England, it was like lots of people taking the mickey, but lots of people offering us drinks, which is lovely. And then you had on the continent, you had people taking the mickey, but offering us lifts, which was quite interesting. So just completely the opposite, but equally very kind, good reception, but lots of people taking the mick.
Yeah, which is really painful to turn down those lifts as well. Right? Lift or not? And we're like, no, we can't, sadly.
Was there ever a point in those 50 days where you thought that you wouldn't make it?
Oh. Day 4 for me, to be honest. I had the worst, blisters so big you could have named them. And it was throughout, but I think the first 4 days for me were the worst. I had a really bad infection, because we didn't really know how to take care of our feet that well. And it was obviously such a major thing. And yeah, we kind of just forgot to do that bit. The first week was the toughest. And I thought, how are we only 4 days into this?
I think when we got pulled over by the police for me.
Yeah.
we got arrested and put in the back of a van for walking at night on the side of a main road, which I don't recommend to anyone.
In which country is that against the law then?
Was it France or Belgium?
It was. I think it was France. It was one of those areas of land that could have been France, could have been Belgium. I'm not actually sure. So it was these kind police officers said, no, you can't walk at night. This is ridiculous. This is a busy road. And at that point we were thinking, right, how are we going to get there when it's, over 30 degrees during the day, which meant that we had to walk at night. And we were like, this is going to take us way longer than we thought.
Yeah. And also they drove us, they put us in the van and drove us the wrong way. Which is weird. So we had to walk the whole distance again.
Yeah. You mentioned that you had a lot of blisters. You didn't know too much about foot care. How did you get over that? So 4 days in, you've got loads of blisters. You still got another 45 days to go or something like that. How did you get over that?
Sheer will and sort of weaponized stupidity, to be honest. I mean, we really, any medical professional, and including my dad's a GP, any medical professional worth their salt would have said, right, stop right now and give yourselves a rest. But we just thought we had to get out of England as quickly as possible. We'll give it a rest on the ferry. I mean, we had lots and lots of, Compede sent us a care package. Sidas sent us some anti-friction gels and some of those little, we called them toe condoms, but they were sort of these sort of silicone gel things you could put on each individual toe. So all of these things to help reduce friction. We got some insoles, like proper sort of gel insoles, to try and reduce all of the pressure. So we did everything we could, and Vaseline as well.
Vaseline's amazing.
Lots of Vaseline.
What socks did you wear?
Sidas.
Yeah.
Every day.
So they gave us these sort of padded skiing socks, ones with the ridges on the front to decrease a bit of rub, and they were long socks, but they were great. They were from Sidas as well, so they really helped us out.
The only problem with it is that because it was about 30 degrees, wearing ski socks and being quite warm does mean your feet tend to blow up a little bit.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend listeners have a look at your Instagram, which I'll put a link to, because there's some very entertaining posts in there, particularly in talking about it was hot. You could see that it was really, really hot. So amazing achievement. I had a look. I think you raised around £10,000 so far or something like that. So I'm going to put a link to that, and then listeners can donate as well if they would like to.
Absolutely. The donation link is open till November. We're going to be trying as much as possible to bring in as much money for Snowcamp and McMillan over the next 2 months. We'll be at the London Snow Show doing a chat there as well to try and get as many people to donate, because they're doing some amazing things for lots of people around the world, and we definitely believe that they deserve it. So, yeah.
Well, I look forward to meeting you in real life at that event, and congratulations again. Right, we're going to move towards the close now. I always enjoy listener feedback. I love to hear what you think about the show. You can leave me a comment on Spotify, Instagram, or Facebook. Our handle is @theski-podcast, or you can drop me an email to theski-podcast@gmail.com. Lynsey very kindly bought me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/ski podcast. She said, I always listen to the podcast. It's been a lovely escape in the recent hot weather. Bring on the winter. Adam Fisher said, keep up the good work. Dennis said, I'm a big fan of your podcast. I enjoyed your appearance on Stuart Winchester's Storm podcast. There was a comment on Spotify. No name. Hi, I'm 13. I love skiing. This podcast is helping me get through the summer. I'm from Germany, by the way. So no name from Germany. Delighted to welcome you on board. Also on Spotify, Skiing Posty enjoyed the Tom Greenall episode. We're explaining how you can become a ski patroller in France. And David Musson let me know how much he enjoyed my interview with Mark Smith, the man in 61, the train travel expert, in episode 233. There are now 270 episodes of the Ski Podcast to catch up with. 136 of those were listened to in the last week. So if you enjoyed this episode, why not go to skipodcast.com, have a search around the tags and categories, and you're bound to find something that you will want to listen to as well. In the last week, half of our listeners, roundabout, were in the UK, around 20% in the States, and everyone else spread as far and wide across the planet as Kazakhstan, Zimbabwe, and Brazil. You can follow me at Skipedia, the podcast at Ski Podcast. You can also follow us on WhatsApp for exclusive material released ahead of the podcast. Look in the show notes for that link. If you enjoyed this episode, there are 3 things you can do. You can follow us, subscribe so you never miss an episode, give us a review on Apple Podcasts, or leave a comment on Spotify, or you can book your ski hire through insportrent.com using the code Ski Podcast. But for now, I would like to thank my guests today. Heather, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Reuben and Matt, thank you very much for joining us as well.
Cheers.
Thanks, Ian.
And finally, listener, thank you for joining us wherever in the world you're listening right now. And until next time, goodbye.